Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Wednesday, the 6th of July, comes to you from London, and a lot of turmoil still in the markets. The UK political turmoil is through the roof, really, and we saw this big move in the FTSE future yesterday, that big daily down candle there, so really significant, and sterling below 120, so making new lows there against the dollar. No big surprises there. This all came out in our energy reports. If I look at my alerts today, we see just really these targets just coming in all the time, and the fact that there's lots of red on the screen, they're color coded. And remember, you can run these news alerts on your Trayport, on your Bloomberg, on your Icon, whatever you're feeding into Updata. You'll get these chart alerts just automatically by dropping these into your system. And we're seeing here some really interesting things just coming through all the time, and that's really significant. We're just looking at all of the charts there. Down target on the DAX, TTF on the Sensex, whatever you want to look at. And of course, WTI, we've seen lots of targets there. Here we're seeing moves on tech stocks, the lot. So really interesting. And none of this is a really big surprise for us. This is covered in our global markets report, and you can easily just go through these reports and look at what has been said historically. So there's no hiding for us. And if we look at the report for July, which was out last week to clients, it's really interesting there, the summary from what happened in June and the stance. And what's really interesting is the bold and stars are the changes. So most of the changes were in metals. No real changes in the long-term trends in energy or soft commodities. And of course, stock markets we've been calling negative for several months now, and they're making new lows there as well. And we see here that GBP sterling has been bearish for some time in our reports as well. And the key thing here is the time horizon. So this monthly report is our medium and long-term time frame, and then we do the shorter term reports, we do the weekly reports, and then the daily reports for energy, and then special reports as they come. And in these reports, we show you how to read them, how to interpret the analysis, looking at the market super cycles and what's going on there. And then, of course, we go down to the analysis with all the trends and targets and our call. So that was the global reports. In terms of the energy special reports, we put a report out to clients on gas and power last week. So here is all of the trends and targets there with all of the calls again. So these reports all available to you in Updata. If you want a trial of Updata, you just straight away out of the box get these reports. And then of course our Energy Daily, where we have the weekly reports, the daily reports. So this is our call for today. We're bearish crude oil and emissions, and so you can just read these each day. So the reports are all there for you to access. And of course intraday you've then got the targets to help you navigate that. So we're seeing quite a lot of these downside targets kicking in all the time. So let's look at the markets, and remembering this is my weekly, my daily and my 60-minute chart, my long-term, medium-term and short-term view of the market with the corresponding point and figure targets. Here are the alerts just kicking in as we speak, and so this just shows us the picture on those three time horizons, and those alerts of course help you in the day just spot anything new that's happening in the charts. I'm running this on Refinitiv Icon. You can run on lots of different data services in Updata, and you can just configure them on the fly. So whatever data services you've got, you can see I've got several here, and that means that when I want to go and open a chart, I've got all of these data services available to me. So you can configure it for several dozen different services and feed those through into your alerting as well. So let's look at the dollar index, 106 here, hitting new highs. We've been saying consistently that 2022 would be the year of the dollar, and well, what a year it's been so far. We've really just motored up around 7 or 8% so far this year. For the reserve currency, of course, that is a huge rise, and that means that the euro making new lows. And if you go to the reports, you can see that we did a special report on the euro. How low will the euro go? And that report you can actually read as well. So here we go. How low will the euro go? You can read this with all the trends and targets. And we've been talking downside, short term, medium term. We've got a target to 95 cents below parity. And those reports were put out. That report was put out in March. So it's all unfolding now. And we see here these new lows on the euro. Look at those targets. We are going below parity. It's going to happen. Looking at sterling, we're below that 120 level. We talked about that. Against the euro, sterling sitting at 116.74. So these two currencies are really falling away against the dollar equally. No big changes there. Ironically, sterling's making new lows against the dollar, but it's actually rising a bit against the euro. So we're really seeing this turmoil that we've been talking about playing through. The Bitcoin is still sitting at $20,000, but it's game over for crypto. And the S&P 500 index was up slightly yesterday, but the reality is we are going lower. Look at these targets, and the same with the Nasdaq. And those targets and the projections and key levels are all given in those global reports, which you can have access to in your Updata Enterprise system. We're seeing the futures down about 0.25% today. The VIX volatility sitting steady at 28. It's a wonder it's not above 30, but the fear index is just gradually rising there. FTSE future recovering this morning, but had a terrible day yesterday with all the political turmoil that's going on in the UK. The DAX in Germany up 1%, but again after big falls. And this euro is now going to be a real concern there. Japan was down 1%. The Hang Seng was down 1.2%. China down 1.4%. So we are seeing a bit of recovery there in Chinese stocks, just breaking the trend of Western markets. And looking at the Sensex in India, we're below the cloud here, like most Western markets for most this year, with downside targets. So it is a global thing that we're going to see. The Aussie market down 0.5%, and quite a few of the smaller caps and Oz really hit in this sell everything mentality. We'll look at the energy mix in a minute, but the key things here are that we're seeing corn just continuing to rise, up 1.5%. We covered that again. It was 100 different instruments covered in that global monthly report. Gold, we turned bearish on in that report because we are breaking below that critical 1800 level. We've got to fall before we rise on gold. We've got some big long-term upside targets, but we've got to come back before we go up. US 10-year yields sitting steady at 2.8%. Market starting to wonder whether the Fed will really act as aggressively with the global growth problems we're seeing. Quick look at the energy mix. We've got Brent crude. It fell heavily yesterday, down 1.5%, up 2.3% in recovery mode today, but the reality is we are now below the cloud. We've got this mix of targets. If you're trading crude, keep an eye on those 1 minute price targets and the alerts, of course. US nat gas sitting steady at 566. We went out as neutral today on our morning report. We are seeing coal sitting steady at 255, and emissions, that has been a real wonder there. On emissions, we are seeing that 83 level being hit, and we've got again lots of downside targets there to aim for, so we are pulling back in the range. So we went out as bearish yesterday and today on emissions. Crude, we're looking at gas prices. TTF down 3%, NBP down 10.5%. So we're really seeing that decoupling continuing between European and UK gas. German power hit that target. We talked about this target here, 331, 333. These targets have been in place for a long time on the 1 minute chart. That 327 was given on the 20th of June, back at 255. That was met. We do have upside targets, but of course we are just pulling back and pausing for breath. We will be putting out a power report just talking about where we go next, but some very big upside targets there, and it's really interesting, so keep an eye on those charts. That's it for today. Remember to keep watching the targets and your alerts. You'll see these alerts coming through all the time, and just keep watching those alerts. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.